Picture London's streets today, a dynamic mosaic of languages and cultures from every corner of the globe. It's a city defined by its incredible diversity. Yet, journey back 2 millennia, and you'd find a starkly different landscape. A marshy expanse along a tidal river, sparsely populated and strategically insignificant to all but the Romans. How did this desolate spot transform into the vibrant metropolis we know? Through centuries of invasions, devastating fires, plagues, and profound revolutions. For generations, we could only imagine these past Londons through faded drawings and old written accounts. But now, cutting-edge AI, trained on historical images, breathes new life into these visions. We can now witness the ancient cobblestones, the bustling crowds, and the smoke rising from medieval chimneys as if we were truly there. Prepare to traverse nearly 2,000 years of history. Our journey begins in 43 AD, as 4 Roman legions land on the Kent coast, pushing inland. Their immediate need, a reliable crossing point over the Thames. They sought a location to construct a bridge and establish vital supply lines back to the continent. They found it at the river's narrowest point, just before it broadened into an estuary. Within a mere decade, this new settlement, Londinium, was thriving. Merchants from Gaul, soldiers from Syria, and traders from North Africa flocked there. The Romans erected their bridge precisely where London Bridge stands today, and around it, a bustling port town rapidly emerged. However, just 17 years after its founding, catastrophe struck. Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe, weary of Roman occupation, marched her army on Londinium, burning it entirely to the ground. Archaeological excavations have uncovered a distinct layer of red ash beneath the modern city, undeniable proof of that devastating destruction. The Romans, undeterred, rebuilt the city even grander than before, enclosing it with a massive wall. Portions of this ancient structure still endure 2,000 years later. At its zenith, Londinium housed around 60,000 inhabitants, making it the largest city in Britannia, complete with amphitheaters, bathhouses, and forums. Yet, by 410 AD, Rome itself was collapsing under barbarian pressure, and distant Britain became too costly to defend. Emperor Honorius famously declared, "You're on your own." The legions withdrew, and without Rome's support, Londinium's entire economy crumbled. Trade networks ceased, Roman currency lost its value, and its skilled residents abandoned the city. Beginning in the late 8th century, Norse raiders began to plague the settlement, striking with increasing frequency and force. These were no longer mere skirmishes. In 842, they completely sacked Londonwic, repeating the devastating attack in 851. Finally, in 886, King Alfred the Great decided he had endured enough, successfully reclaiming London from Danish control. He then made a shrewd decision, abandoning the vulnerable Londonwic and relocating its inhabitants to the more defensible old Roman walled city. Alfred meticulously repaired the ancient walls and redug the defensive ditches, renaming the fortified settlement Londonburg, or London Fortress. Londonwic, now deserted, gradually earned the name Elvic, the Old Settlement. This moniker endures today as Old Witch, a curved street in central London. For the next century and a half, the city frequently changed hands, caught between the shifting power dynamics of Saxon and Danish rulers. In 1016, King Canute, famed for the legend of commanding the tides, elevated London to the status of his capital city. In 1042, King Edward the Confessor commissioned Westminster Abbey just west of the city. This pivotal decision forever shaped London's geography, separating commerce from power. Edward's childless death in January 1066 plunged England into a bitter succession crisis, with Harold Godwin's son quickly crowned king. Meanwhile, William, Duke of Normandy, asserted his own claim to the English throne. Harold then had to march north to repel a Norwegian invasion. Scarcely had Harold triumphed when word arrived. William had landed on the south coast with 7,000 Norman soldiers, forcing a swift march south. Harold rushed his exhausted army south, confronting William at Hastings on October 14th. By nightfall, Harold was dead, and William had decisively won England. On Christmas Day 1066, William was crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey, marking the definitive end of the Anglo-Saxon era and the dawn of Norman rule. Distrusting London's populace, who had backed Harold, William erected not one, but 3 fortresses to maintain order. The greatest of these became the formidable Tower of London. The 1530s saw a dramatic shift as Henry VIII's desire for a divorce from his first wife was denied by the Pope. In response, Henry severed ties with the Catholic Church, establishing himself as the head of the new Church of England. He subsequently dissolved all monasteries, acquiring their extensive land in London, which then became accessible for development. This newly available property was bought by aristocrats and wealthy merchants, facilitating the construction of grand homes and urban expansion. Under Queen Elizabeth I, London became Europe's cultural capital, with the Globe Theatre opening in 1599 on the South Bank. Shakespeare staged iconic plays like Hamlet, as merchants grew wealthy from trade with the New World and Asia. The founding of the East India Company in 1600 laid the critical foundation for Britain's future imperial endeavors. However, London consistently faced severe threats from both widespread disease and devastating fires. Its predominantly timber construction, thatched roofs, and tightly packed, overhanging houses made it an extreme fire hazard. Both calamities struck in the 1660s, beginning with the Great Plague in 1665, which claimed up to 7,000 lives each week. This terrible epidemic eventually killed approximately 100,000 people, accounting for a quarter of the city's population. On September 2, 1666, a bakery fire on Pudding Lane ignited, spreading quickly due to a hot, dry summer and strong winds. For 4 relentless days, London burned, destroying 85% of the walled city, including 13,000 houses and 87 churches. Miraculously, only about 6 people perished directly in the flames, inspiring Christopher Wren to propose a completely new city plan. While mostly rejected, new fire-resistant building regulations were established for reconstruction, and Wren famously rebuilt St. Paul's Cathedral. The Victorian era ushered in monumental advancements for London, with Joseph Bazalgette's ingenious sewage system ending the 1858 Great Stink, and the world's first underground railway beginning operations in 1863. Iconic structures like Tower Bridge, completed in 1894, showcased London's engineering prowess, solidifying its position at the zenith of British power. Yet, this period was also defined by stark social contrasts, where the affluent enjoyed extraordinary comfort in Mayfair, while the impoverished were crammed into the squalid slums of the East End. Cholera epidemics tragically swept through these deprived areas in the 1830s and 40s, decimating entire neighborhoods until Dr. John Snow conclusively proved in 1854 that contaminated water, not air, was the cause. Amidst rampant crime, Robert Peel established the Metropolitan Police in 1829, creating the city's first professional police force, affectionately nicknamed Bobbies after him. However, the city's darker elements persisted, epitomized by Jack the Ripper's reign of terror in Whitechapel in 1888, a murderer who was never apprehended and became a symbol of Victorian London's dangerous underbelly. Charles Dickens vividly captured this stark dichotomy in his writings, exposing the workhouses, slums, and child labor that coexisted within the world's wealthiest empire. The 20th century brought London back to a harsh reality. While World War I claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, the city's main infrastructure largely endured. World War II, however, brought the conflict directly to the city during the Blitz, as German bombers relentlessly attacked London almost every night between September 1940 and May 1941. Despite widespread devastation, with 1 million buildings damaged or destroyed and nearly 500,000 UK lives lost, St. Paul's Cathedral miraculously stood defiant amidst the smoke and flames. Post-war London was left bankrupt, scarred, and exhausted, as its empire crumbled and rationing extended well into the 1950s, compounded by the deadly 1952 Great Smog which claimed 12,000 lives in just 5 days. Yet, London consistently rebuilt and reinvented itself, marked by the 1951 Festival of Britain and a new era of immigration from former colonies, fostering unparalleled diversity. From the cultural explosion of the swinging 60s to economic downturns and the rise of Canary Wharf, London continually reshaped its identity, becoming a global financial hub. Through Roman withdrawals, Viking raids, plagues, fires, and bombings, London has always adapted, attracting new people and fresh ideas, defining its unique character for 2 millennia.